The Poor Farmer and the Mysterious Wizard. Long ago, nearly 100 years ago, in a small farming village somewhere in old America, there lived a poor farmer named Thomas Reed. Thomas was not rich. He did not own large fields or expensive horses like the other farmers in town. He only had a tiny piece of dry land, an old wooden house, and one weak horse named Benny. Every morning before sunrise, Thomas walked into his field carrying the same broken shovel, and every evening he returned home exhausted, with barely enough food to survive. But despite his hard life, Thomas was known as the kindest man in the village. If a neighbor was hungry, he shared his bread. If someone was sick, he helped them work in the fields. And if a traveler needed shelter, Thomas always opened his door. The villagers often laughed at him. "Kindness will never make you rich," they said. Thomas only smiled and replied, "Maybe not, but it helps me sleep peacefully at night." One cold autumn evening in 1924, a violent lightning flashed through the windows, while the mysterious old man sat silently near the fireplace, watching Thomas carefully. Finally, the old man asked, "Why would you help a stranger when you have almost nothing yourself?" Thomas shrugged gently. "Because someday, I may need kindness too." For the first time, the old man smiled. The next morning, Thomas woke up and discovered something impossible. The storm was gone. The sky looked bright blue, but the old man was standing outside in the middle of the field, completely unharmed, and around him the wind itself seemed to move strangely. The trees bent without reason. Dust circled around his feet. Thomas froze in fear. Then the old man spoke in a deep voice. "Thomas Reed, I am not an ordinary traveler." Suddenly, a bright blue light surrounded the old man's body. His black coat transformed into long silver robes. His eyes glowed like fire. Thomas stepped backward in shock. Who are you?" The man smiled. "Many years ago, people called me Elias the Wizard." Thomas could hardly breathe. Everyone in America had heard stories about Elias, a mysterious wizard who disappeared decades earlier. Some believed he was only a legend, but now he stood right in front of him. Elias raised his hand slowly toward the dry farmland. Within seconds, something unbelievable happened. The dead soil became dark and healthy. Tiny green plants burst from the ground instantly. Thomas stared with tears in his eyes. This is impossible." Elias looked at him carefully. "Magic does not belong to cruel people, Thomas. It belongs to those with a good heart." Then the wizard removed a small, glowing crystal from his pocket. The crystal shined with soft, golden light. "I have traveled across this country for many years, searching for someone worthy enough to protect this power. He placed the crystal into Thomas's hands. Suddenly, warmth rushed through Thomas's body. The wind around the farm began spinning violently. The ground trembled softly. Thomas dropped to his knees as strange energy filled his entire body. Elias whispered, "From this day forward, nature itself will listen to you." And then, the wizard vanished into thin air. Thomas never saw him again. At first, Thomas believed it was all a dream, but later that afternoon, he discovered something incredible. When he touched the dry crops, they instantly became healthy. When he spoke softly to dying plants, they grew again. Even the rain began arriving whenever Thomas prayed for water. Within months, his small farm became the most beautiful land in the entire region. People traveled from distant towns just to see the miracle farm. The villagers who once mocked him were now shocked. But Thomas never became greedy. Instead of keeping his power secret, he used it to help others. He healed damaged farms. He grew food for hungry families. And during terrible droughts, he brought rain to nearby villages. Soon, people began calling him the farmer blessed by heaven. But not everyone was happy. One rich landowner named Victor Kane became jealous of Thomas's growing fame. Victor wanted the magical power for himself. One night, he secretly broke into Thomas's house, searching for the glowing crystal. But the moment Victor touched it, the entire room exploded with blinding light. A powerful storm formed above the house. The wind threw Victor across the floor, while a mysterious voice echoed through the darkness. "Only the pure-hearted may carry this gift." Victor fled in terror and never returned. Years passed. Thomas became old, but even in his final days, he continued helping others with kindness and humility. Before his death, Thomas buried the magical crystal somewhere beneath his farm, and according to legend, on quiet nights during heavy storms, a soft golden light can still be seen glowing beneath the old fields of Thomas Reed's forgotten farm. Some believe the crystal is still waiting for another kind soul worthy enough to discover its power.